What up, everybody? Hey, welcome to another Moving the Military podcast. As always, I'm your host, the co-host, Matt Grudel, and I'm here, as I am every single week, with the hostess with the mostest, my friend, my business partner, the one and only Dina Watson. And Dina, and let's talk about the conundrum, big word for Matt today. Let's talk about the conundrum that's kind of going on in real estate, specifically with the military affiliated real estate agent that says, hey, I'm going to stake my ground. I'm going to plant my flag right here in the military niche. But there's a little bit of a conundrum going on. What would you say that is?
I'm just going to say it bluntly, and then we'll go back and work our way through the finesse of it. But they're being met with the reality that majority of the military force in this country cannot actually afford to buy a house. That's the conundrum. Or maybe they're not actually aware of it. They just don't know why they're screaming marketing into the oblivion and nobody's coming. But some version of that, Matt, I guess is what it would be. Is there
Well, I mean,
big
I think that everybody out there right now, if you look at your local market, there's going to be some agents that are watching this right now that say, man, you guys are absolutely crazy. You have no idea what you're
You had
talking.
a few of those a month ago.
Literally, like my military business is absolutely crushing. I mean, we have one person that we know right now that's in one of our authority level coachings that has done 8 transactions in the last 6 to 8 weeks by positioning himself in the military niche. Yet that is not common right now. What we're seeing is a lot of the military agents that we know, that we coach, that we're in proximity to, they're struggling a little bit because the military is not buying like they used to because of economics and all the things that go into it. And I don't think we've talked enough about, and we can get to it later, about what the government shutdown so many months ago actually did that has this wave going on right now as well. But right now, let's stick with price,
Yeah.
right? A lot of our military niche agents are so used to doing what we've always done historically. Hey, first time home buyer seminars, BAH classes, and things like that. But people aren't showing up.
Well, so I want to stop for a second because there's the group of people who were in business 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And then there's the group of people, let's call it, BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID. Okay.
There you
So
go.
in 2020 BC, no, I'm joking, but before COVID, everybody could, even like an E3, E4 in any branch of service, could afford to buy a home and had less money out of pocket buying than they did renting. And so there's a whole era in real estate for people who were here during all of that where they could go on and teach these classes and first time homebuyer seminars. And it was easy because at that time, like, and I was in my rise at that time. Here's why it was easy. We all knew that the sellers were paying our compensation, so we didn't have to have a conversation about compensation, number one. Number two, rates were so low that it was actually cheaper to buy than it was to rent. And anybody with half a brain cell who is met with both of those as a reality says, sure, why not buy a house? Nothing out of pocket. I don't got to pay for any, you're paying my closing costs. It's cheaper to buy than rent. Like, what's the downside? There was no downside.
The come list me's were lined up for you. I mean, literally, like, you didn't have to interview. They just said, come list me.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think you've got the world that uh, it's hard because people who won during that era are the ones teaching people who are currently losing, but they're teaching them to do the things that they did in a winning time in the real estate market that doesn't really work anymore because those two truths are now not reality. And so I think that the younger people who are coming into this business 2, 3, 4 years are learning tactics from people in our bracket that just don't work anymore
Yeah.
because that's not a reality anymore. So
Well,
I
I
think
think
it needs to.
the other ones too that were during, I love the way you said BCAC before COVID, after COVID. Those that were before COVID that had those low interest rates that literally the E3, the E4 could afford. Well, they're trying to sell now, and yet they have enough equity to where they're still winning. The ones that were positioned 4 or 5 years ago are still winning today because of what happened 4 or 5 years ago. Like you said, they're teaching the tactics to the
Mhm.
agents that are coming in today, which is not the same.
No, it's not. And even the conversations aren't the same. The marketing's not the same. The lead gen tactics aren't the same. The avatar is not the same. None of it's the same. And, this whole conversation came about for the two of us, Matt, because I, as many of you have witnessed, have been getting back into real estate and selling and marketing myself again for the first time in the last 3 months. I was out of the game for about 4 years. I had the realization that my last transaction where I was transacting all the time was in 2021. So I was on a break from 2022 coaching and doing leadership until the end of last year. And coming back into this whole conversation came about because I realized that the way that I won 4 years ago doesn't work right now. And the conversations are different. And it was through looking up a lot of statistics for Fort Campbell that I was hit with the epiphany that my ideal audience is not the people I was marketing to. So we can unpack that however, but
Well, no, I think that's it. Let's talk about that, right? Because I think you said something really crucial, right? You said the biggest difference. So let's dive into what's the biggest difference of the group you were literally slaying and winning in 2021 to today.
the biggest difference is the pool of people who can afford. And I say like this because we're talking averages, not every anomaly out there, which y'all are going to point out. Every anomaly we had that thing's at 100,000 views right now, and I still get 5 or 6 comments a day calling me stupid. So it's just the gift that keeps giving. But anyway, podcast we did a couple weeks ago, you guys, is going a little feral. But the biggest difference is that the people that we were selling to 4 or 5 years ago were the E3, E4, E5 first time homebuyers. They were 22, 23, 26, 27 years old. And the average military family has a single income. Okay. So, in that bucket of people who were buying all those houses, the spouse is not working, or if they are, they're working part time around the kids' schedule, doing some craft selling on Etsy or whatever. That is not enough money today on a monthly basis to afford a house. Here's the example I gave you, Matt, that I'll give them. I live in a little bit more of an expensive part of Clarksville, and I had some jackass on TikTok say, well, how about we show homes that military service members can't afford? It pissed me off. And so here's what happened. I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to find this is what happened. So I said, I'm going to find every single new construction house that I can, every new construction neighborhood that I can within 10 minutes of Fort Campbell. And I'm going to do this content strategy. It's going to be great. And it's going to be what your BAH can afford. And I'm going to flash the video up and we're going to walk these people through what their BAH can afford them.
Thinking, now I'm going to pause here.
Yeah,
Time out.
this is 2
Thinking, right?
weeks ago.
Because I was part of this with you. I get all of the venting, right? I get to be the shoulder on this, right? So here's the thing, like
I was like,
thinking that
fuck
there's
that guy. I'm going to figure it out.
thinking that there's going to be this plethora
Mhm.
of homes and neighborhoods, and it's going to be overwhelming. I'm going to have a list of 60, 80, 90, 100. That's not the reality.
Well, here's what happened because don't learn from Dina. I got mad and I let like the annoyance of somebody I don't know's comment send me on a 4-hour video production tour of North Clarksville over a weekend with my kid. And I got home and I was all proud as a peacock and I was like, I got all this content and I'm about to do the thing. Then I went to look at not the BAH rates. I knew the BAH rates because I see them all the time. But I was like, what's the mortgage on this place so I can put up their monthly mortgage, monthly BAH? You know what happened? That $370,000 house that was 3 bed, 2 bath, 1,500 square feet in North Clarksville that I filmed, the monthly mortgage on that was about $2,400 to $2,500 a month. You know whose BAH is that high, Matt?
Probably E6s,
Eight.
E7s in that area.
E8.
E8. Wow.
Yeah. So E7 at Fort Campbell gets 22 something with dependents. So even an E7, here's, bringing this back and putting a bow on it. What I realize is that the people who I was creating content for can't afford to buy what I'm creating content around. And so, yes, if they have a spouse that works, that's different. And I get that. And I'm in that bucket. Matt, you're in that bucket. But many people are not. And the group of people we were marketing to in 21, 2020, 19, all the way back to 2015, we didn't have to have dual income families buying homes. It was like, hey, you're in the military, you get BAH, this house is cheaper, here you go. Today, until you get into E7, BAH, maybe E6 with a resale small home, you ain't buying shit around here. It's expensive because of the rates, because of the
Or,
now there's a
or
caveat
you
we can talk about, but yeah.
or you're buying, right? Which, we recommend everybody buy, or you're buying, but you're not buying under the concept of 2020, 2021, early 22, where we talked about, hey, your BAH should cover everything. Those
Recovered.
days were kind of gone right now. Like literally,
Yeah.
you're using your BAH, you're using your BAS, you're coming out of your pocket, which is always a good investment, when you look at the future. But a lot of young individuals, I mean, my son's a young E5 promotable. His spouse doesn't work right now. He's not buying right now in Colorado Springs because of
Can't
what the
afford it.
BAH is. Yeah. And the median home price.
Yeah. And I think it's important for us to stop before the trolls get after us. We are not advocating that you don't buy. We're saying that with BAH, it's not affordable to buy.
We're
You
saying,
can,
but the old marketing concept that
yeah,
agents were talking about way back when about your BA, afford something when your BAH, get your BA. I mean, because I was the same way. I mean, literally, like I was lucky back in the day when I was buying homes, and I didn't start purchasing until I was an E7, right? So I had a higher BAH, but my BAH could cover my home, right? And then some of my utilities and internet and things like that. What we're saying is that, man, it is still the best time to buy, yet the normalcy of just using your BAH and being able to afford a home off your BAH is not
it's
there.
covered.
It's a
Yeah.
different conversation, a different tactic.
Well, it's also a different marketing strategy. And I don't think many people, to bring it back to the beginning of this, I think many agents in our space are marketing because that's kind of what they see other people doing. So they think it works because they're like, this person's all over the place and their marketing message is so great. I'm going to steal it and I'm going to use it. Not realizing that that person also doesn't know what they're doing and the person before them they stole it from doesn't understand. So, what we're suggesting is that you slow down for a minute and actually think, who is this marketing landing with? The $300,000, $380,000, 3 bed, 2 bath, no bonus room, 1,500 square foot home is landing with a certain avatar of client. It just is. We call it a spade, right? The 5 bedrooms, 4 bath, 3,000 square foot home is landing with a very different person in a very different place in their life. That's just, I was gonna say that's just math, but that's just life. It's not discriminatory or anything. So if your ideal client is a person newly PCSing to whatever base you're at, they're probably in that E4 to E6 window, and you should slow down for a second and ask, can they actually afford to buy what I'm showing them? If the answer is no, then we're going to get into that the last half of this podcast, but that's what I came to a few weeks ago was who's the person who would really raise their hand to go see the house that I'm showing right now? And it was E4, people with small kids, people who want close convenience to Fort Campbell, people who maybe don't have kids at all, but starter family kind of a situation. And those rates are not the BAH rates. Like they it ain't gonna work. So now we have to shift. That's okay. But the point is, are you aware of what his landing and not with
Well,
people?
I think what you said, one of my favorite sayings, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You need to take a slow down and actually study the market, right? I love to say it, become the SME, the subject matter expert, the local economist of choice on the entire market. Just don't market, right? What I always say, don't parrot what the masses are saying. Actually slow down, understand the market and say, okay, this is what group can actually afford. This is if you're going to buy what you actually have to consider in regards to BAH and additional funds that will be needed. This is, single income, dual income. You got to understand the market and understand who you're actually marketing and advertising to, which I think is a great thing too, because I'll kind of take this sideways a little bit. One of the things we have right now, if you think about those agents right now that are sitting on listings, hey, great conversation to have because here's the thing. If you're sitting on a listing and you're just marketing to all the masses, you're missing the boat. Who is the avatar that fits their home? Let's tweak our marketing not to the masses, but to that individual home and the clientele that actually use that individual home. It's okay to, I don't want to use the word silo, but really narrow your marketing per listing per home.
Yeah, the other thing too that any of you could do, which I'm doing right now, if you're watching the video, you can see I'm a little distracted. You can go on to your Instagram professional dashboard, okay? And you can click on, or, Facebook has this too. You can click on your professional dashboard and you can see insights and you can see views. So if you click on views on your professional dashboard on Instagram, if you're not as a business on Instagram, you won't see a professional dashboard, but then you need to change it. Um, Here's what I've also looked at, just so people know, is what is the age range of the people who are viewing my stuff? Because if we go back to what we said, if I'm showing properties that people who would be buying them are between, on average, 24 to 28 years old, who are newly minted in the military and moved to Fort Campbell, all the stuff we already said. And then I look at who's actually looking at my stuff on Instagram. It's 35 to 45 and 45 to 55 as the age bracket. So my bracket of followers is 35 to 50 years old, mostly women. Okay. So those two things don't work because 35 to 55-year-old women are not buying or interested in the houses I was showing. So it actually fucks you going both directions. It actually messes with everything going in both ways. The people seeing what I'm buying can't afford it. The people seeing what I'm posting aren't buying what I'm posting. So it's like, I think to your point, slow is smooth, but we have to know what to look for to know how to make it go faster later. And that was like my own realization the last month is that I was going out of my way to shoot all this content and do all this stuff and it wasn't landing. And I'm like, why am I getting 2 views on this?
Well, and me and you had a hard conversation. We had a conversation, I don't know, about a week or 2 weeks ago. You're like, Matt, man, I'm at this like crossroads. I'm this dilemma. Like, this is what I used to do, and this is what it has to change to. And I've got to get okay with being uncomfortable and doing something different because what worked in 2021 is not working today.
That wasn't it. Yes, it wasn't even that it's not working. That it has been the hard part for me. It's the identity shift around something that is a little. We'll get it. I'm not just gatekeeping here, but it's the identity shift, and it's like publicly announcing something that would be seen as something I don't want to be seen as, but it's the only thing that's going to work. So it's, I don't know. Clean this up for me. What am I trying to say?
Well, it's you had one identity talking about one thing, and now you're like, okay, I've got to completely change my identity and talk about something else, which
Mhm.
may be not what I want to talk about. Or not that I don't want to talk about, it's different than what I've talked about in the past.
Yeah, so just to get to it, I guess, the epiphany that the general content of military and like buying a home and BAH education and all of this stuff is not going to land with the ideal client that gives me my ideal life. And so if we like go backwards, you have to start with knowing what is your ideal day, what's your ideal number of transactions, what's your ideal number of dollars, because many people, what you're taught to do is you're taught to say, I want to make $100,000. And then you're taught to say, okay, well, how many homes is that? Well, that at the average price, that's 20 homes, whatever. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But what if you don't want to work in the average area? Like here at Fort Campbell, the average price home, that is 40 minutes, 30 minutes away from me. My ideal day is to not go more than 15 minutes away from my house because I don't want to spend most of my life in traffic anymore. I did that all year last year. I had 2.5 hour commutes one way last year. Never again in my entire life will I ever do that. So I know we're drawing this out a little bit, but what everybody has to start with is what's your ideal number of dollars for what amount of time? How much time are you willing to trade for that amount of money? And then what's your ideal day look like? That kind of started this whole identity crisis, Matt, of like the people who live in the parameter of my ideal day are not the people who are going to land with the content I've been making.
Yeah, they're not well, exactly, because the people
And
if
it's
you
going to require me to sell more homes than I want to if I
exactly.
work with them.
Right. And so for you at this stage in your life, the ideal time that you're willing to give, the ideal distance that you're willing to travel is not the $100,000, 24 homes, 40 minutes each way, right? Which means that now I have a different clientele in your area, right? Which means that my marketing, my message, like the whole first time home buyer thing is not going to apply to your ideal client based off of where you want to sell, how much time you want to spend selling, who you want to be in business with and have relationships with. All of that has changed, which is a complete identity shift from what we've said in the past.
Yeah. And it's also causing me to have to stake claim to only one zip code out of all of them in the city.
Well, we
So
had a great conversation on that yesterday.
Well, share from your I mean, I'm dominating this conversation
Yeah,
from
well,
your
we
side
talked
of
about
it.
that
Why don't
yesterday.
you
We
share?
talked about well, for everybody who listened to this, right? Look at there's a million ways to do real estate, right? There's a million ways to do real estate, right? As long as you stick within your real estate job description, you're going to be good to go. But you may want to cover an entire area, right? You may not. And so we talked about. I'll give you an example. My area. Right. I'm in Colorado Springs. So we talk about I do not want to cover the entire Colorado Springs. I do not want to be driving 35. Same with you. 35, 40 minutes to the Fort Carson area based on where I live. I want to do business in my area, right? The two or three different things in my area, because what I know is the median price is $769,000 in my area. For me to give the amount of time I want to, for me to still be able to coach and pour into people and sell real estate, I want to make sure I control my time, which means my clientele has got to be one that can be in between 650 and 850. Well, 650 and 850 is not my young E5 promotable son who really I want to pour into and I want to, that's not the ideal client. So for me, I'm going to hone down into one area based on one set of demographics, based on one medium price point, which means my avatar, if I want to stay in this area, must change, which is a different identity from wanting to help every young soldier out there.
Yeah, the other thing too is it requires you to go places that you probably don't normally go and join groups that you probably wouldn't normally join. And there's this whole can of worms, right? But it starts with how clear are you? If anyone's going through this where they are listening to us and they've put the content out there, they're posting the classes, they're hosting the things, and nobody's coming, you might want to rewind and start listening to and evaluating your marketplace because there are still a lot of like really small towns that military bases are in that people may be listening to this thinking we're crazy because in their area they can still buy for $200,000. That's not the reality here. So, like in most military areas, that's no longer the case. So, everyone's going to have a different experience. But the question you start with is how much time am I willing to give? What are the guardrails around my day? Meaning for me personally, I'm not going to start working with anybody before this time and I'm going to end at this time. And if I have to do some small stuff out of that, okay, whatever. But like my ideal day is here. What's your ideal drive parameter around where you're normally going? So for me, I start in this part of town and I drive 20 minutes northwest to take my kid to school on this one road. Okay, well, I'm already going there. Here's where real estate agents kind of screw up, Matt, with what you said on like, I don't want to cover the whole Colorado Springs. On an on a not busy day, going 45 minutes to Fort Carson is not a big deal. But if you've got 4 clients in 4 separate parts of town, that's where that bites you. Because now you're going here and you're crossing town and you're going back down at the end of the day. You spend an entire day just commuting to 2 or 3 showings or 2 or 3 inspections because you live and work in a place that's very spread out. Well, if you have a nucleus and you live and work in that nucleus and you only sell in that nucleus, well, you're not crossing town and getting stuck in traffic and because you're kind of just bopping around from street to street in that one area. So you got to start with what's the amount of time, what's the amount of money, what's the radius I want to drive from home. And then is when the identity crisis kind of comes in is like the limiting belief I had a couple weeks ago was can I actually make what I want financially and tell the world that I only work in this one zip code? Because the fear thing, right? What if somebody sees my website and is gonna buy, but then they don't wanna move over here and then they go with somewhere else? I think that that has been the hardest piece of it.
No, I don't disagree whatsoever. I mean, that's the hard thing is, and I love the way you brought that up. Is like, hey, if I'm only dealing in this zip code, and someone comes to, I like your website. If you go to your website, man, there's 3 areas on there, right? Your website has 3 areas, and so you have now said, okay, I'm committed. I'm committed to creating my level of freedom, right? Which is what real estate is for. It creates your level of freedom, the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, where you want, and give what you want. Freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of finances. But to do that, you said, I'm only working in this area, right? And your website says, I'm only working in this area. And so you run the risk of people going to your website and saying, oh, okay, well, I'll give me for an example. Matt only works Black Forest Briargate. Well, if I want to go somewhere, Lorson or Banning Lewis or somewhere, like Matt's not my person. Yeah, I'm running the risk of them going to somebody else, but I'm also protecting what I've decided to protect, right? Which is my time, my location, all those other things, right? And it also gives me the ability to control right, my freedom of maneuver, right? Because I'm only working in this area.
Yeah, that's so let's get into the easier said than done commentary around this. So, for an average agent, why do you think that that's easier said than done? They're sitting here, they're going to be the next trolls on our video. I'm going to hear it from every fucking body. It's fine. But why are they sitting there thinking it's easy, that's easier said than done and that won't work here and I can't do that? Why are they saying that?
Because they're afraid to hear the word no. Right? They're afraid that they have this fear of missing out. Like literally, if I don't service this entire area, I'm gonna miss out on all these deals versus looking at it saying that, well, if I get specific and I'm the subject matter expert, the local economist of choice in this area, I'm actually going to create more business of the people I want to work. See, that's the difference in real estate is you get to choose who you work with. You have the ability to say no, right? And too many of us say yes. Like this is your business, right? And when you start thinking of it as your business, well, you have the power to say no and work with the people you want to work with, right? And so they're going to say, "Well, man, you guys are at a different point in your careers, a different point in your business."
No,
Well,
bitch, I'm starting over from
yeah,
nothing.
we're
Like,
both starting over on purpose because we've been in leadership for so long. We're starting over, but
I'm
we're
no
looking.
different than the dude that just got their license right now, y'all. Like, I sold my database. I can't call anybody.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's the fear of missing out. It's the
yeah.
fear. It's that fear of, man, if I say no to somebody, then I'm saying no to this. But yet it goes to this same conversation. Me and you get a lot of kickback all the time. And we're like, no, you got to really narrow down your niche, narrow down your avatar. Who are you working with? What does your ideal client look like? Well, if I do that, I'm going to miss out. Well, your past business isn't going nowhere if you gave them 5-star customer experience, right? If you gave them that Disney level experience, let's just say it, right? If you gave them that, they're not going anywhere. But what you're actually doing is you're actually opening up business to people that normally wouldn't see you or do business with you, right? So
Well,
they're
even
afraid, but yet there's a benefit to it.
yeah, and I think there's a way to blend it if people don't want to exclude completely because that is what I am choosing to do. And I don't know if it's going to bite me or not, but on the website that I created, it says Sango, Kirkwood, Rossview. Those are the three parts of town that make up the corridor I want to work in. Those are also what people would call that part of town. So Matt and I had this discussion yesterday where I corrected you a little bit and you were like, "No, I want this neighborhood, this neighborhood, and this neighborhood." I'm like, "But people don't search for that. They search for the name of the part of town and then they find the neighborhoods in the name of the part of town." So anyway, I digress. The thing that was an identity crisis for me was the realization that the average military person isn't going to come out here because of cost, but I still want to be true to who I am as a military spouse and working with military people. And so what I have kind of come back around to, and my website says this, which it makes me a little nervous. It says military leaders and special operations retirees. So people who are leaders in the military are who I want to work with, not the people who just got in. And
And that's
so
it's just and that's
let's
that
see
doesn't matter the branch.
what
That's
happens.
that senior level officer, that senior level non-commissioned officer. You know, you're talking your E8, E7s, E8s, E9s, your 0304s, 05s, depending on what branch you're in. But you said, hey, this is the group with the special operators retiring that I want to work with.
Mhm.
So I'm creating this pool. And so if you're outside of this pool, are
Sorry.
you just, yeah, are you going to throw me the deuces? Maybe you come into my network,
Yeah.
maybe you don't.
No, but that's the thing. So I was talking with another one of our mentors the other day, and he said, if you're going to do that, you can't take anyone outside of that because then they're going to refer you to their friends who are also outside of it. So, you said a minute ago, like somebody might come to the website and want to buy a house and love what they've seen of me on social media. And then they see, well, I'm not a military leader. I don't want to live in that part of town. I can't afford this neighborhood. And the answer just has to be, that's okay. Like, they might come to my website and rule themselves out, and I have to be okay with that. Because if you're going it's kinda like threatening your kids. Weston's at a point now where he will call you out if you make empty promises or empty threats. You can't say, "If you don't stop, Imma take that away," and then they don't stop and you don't take it away. Because you're just reteaching them that it's okay, and as much as it kinda sucks, if I go out of my bubble here to service someone 5 minutes from Fort Campbell and I give them A-level service, they're gonna give me their friends, which they're probably lovely humans, but they're just gonna keep me out of my bubble. And they're gonna keep me making content out of my bubble and keep me going to inspections out of my bubble. And it's just not like And I'm not privileged in that I already have a thriving real estate sales business and, oh, she can choose this. No, I'm starting from zero either way. I'm
You're
starting
just
from zero
you're starting from 0 with, and here's the thing, I wanna clarify this. You're starting from 0 in
with a
regards
ton
to
of experience.
transactions because yeah,
Yes.
but you're starting from 0 with experience saying, "Okay, I've done this in the past. I've serviced everywhere. I've run myself ragged. I am now at the point where I'm gonna establish some guardrails and I'm gonna say, boom, I'm gonna do my business different." Now, whether it bites me in the ass or not, but when I climb to the top of the hill and be like, "This is what I wanted to see. This is where I wanted to be," I'm going to start putting controls and guardrails into my business from experience in the past. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, but I also want to clarify something and push back a little bit. Um, Anybody can do this. I'm not, yes, I have the knowledge, but I just gave the knowledge to everybody listening to this. It's not about can you, it's about are you brave enough to? Like, because like I said, I'm not currently selling a lot of real estate. I've sold a couple again. So here's the sidebar. Years ago, we were making $1 million a year, sold the team, went into leadership, got rid of sales, and now I'm truly starting from zero, not where I had my team. So it's not like people know me here. I'm re-entering back into a world that I left long ago. But the thing I want to push back on is even the newest agent on the street can do this if you have enough balls to do it. If you're willing to bet on yourself and bet on the fact that it's going to work, because it will, I know it will, it's just a matter of time. Everybody can do this. Most people just are in a fear mongering mentality and they listen to other people who also hate their lives talk about how real estate sucks and the people are terrible and you got to drive forever. Well, yeah, if you service 5 counties, you do have to do all those things. I hate my clients. The more expensive ones are easier. Then why do you keep servicing $100,000 deals? Like we create our own self fulfilling
Well,
like
I think you
chaos.
said something really crucial the other day or today that talks about it. Is you said, "Hey, if I get outside of my guardrails of my core group of people, my avatar, well, if I choose to service that other person, and then they start referring me to a friend, and they start referring me a friend, and they start referring me a friend, well, then I got to service them. I have a relationship with them. I don't want to make them look bad. Well, I've taken myself out of where I want. Take another spin on it, man. There's those agents. We talk about agents all the time. We coach so many agents that are like, yeah, but I'm doing this for so and so at this low compensation rate. Cool. Well, now, Dina, you just did a deal with Matt. And I'm just going to make some numbers up here. Everybody, don't hate on me. You just did a deal with Matt at 2%. Okay. Everybody else is at 3 in your area. You did it at 2. Well, Matt now recommends you to Joe, and Joe's going to expect the same 2% because you did it for Matt at 2%. And then Joe sends you to Sarah. Sarah wants, right?
Yeah.
And so
Here's the other
you made yourself a discount broker, a
my
discount
referral
real estate
relationship.
by referral
Yeah.
relationship. So the same concept of getting out of your avatar and and you make those one offs and those two offs, those three offs. It becomes a whole different lane of people referring you that's outside of your niche.
Yeah, let's go into this though because we're going to do some live math in public. And I'm going to challenge some people and people are going to hate me for it. It's cool. I don't really care. Y'all can do whatever you want. So everyone talks about making concessions for compensation like it's a problem. Everybody's like, "Oh, you didn't take a full 3%, so you must be bad at your job." Maybe I'm smarter than you. Here's why, okay? And I've thought about this a lot over the last few weeks. I In the neighborhood I live in, there are 253 properties, okay? We're just going to start with some math. So everybody, Matt included, we're writing this down. There are 253 properties and people are like, "Oh shit, she's about to talk about farming." Yes, but in a different way, okay? 253 properties last year. I'm going to look this up so I'm not giving you wrong numbers. Last year, out of those 253 properties, where did it go? 22 of them sold. Okay, so there are 44 sides in my neighborhood because 22 homes sold, but there's 22 buyers. So there's 44 sides in my half-mile neighborhood. Okay, so 44 sides times the average price of a property in my neighborhood is $525,000. So 525 times 44,
23 million.
$23 million of production was housed in this little half-mile square little radius in my own world. Guess who's here every day? That'd be me. Guess who drives past majority of those houses every day? That'd be me. I'm already here anyway. So 23 million, let's say that, and we don't work for anybody but ourselves. So if you don't like it, call your congressman. 2.5% commission is what is average in this neighborhood based on the math. I'm not racketeering or any shit like that. I look at the MLS. That's $577,000 was made in these streets.
Yeah, and I did it at 2%. Just say I'm going to lowball this at 2%.
I'm gonna,
2% is $462,000.
okay. So if people charge 2.5%, they made as a collective total 578 because it's a little. I got to round up a little. So $578,000. My best life in 2026 and beyond, just to tell everybody out loud, I'm proclaiming it, is to work less than 20 hours a week and make $500,000. I want to, and that's in all of our ventures, not just real estate. That's in our ascension coaching. That's in our, authority coaching plus real estate. In real estate, my ideal is to work less than 10 hours a week in exchange for $200,000. So that's what I'm trading here. Okay. Everybody, to go back, everybody talks about how cutting commission is a terrible idea, but why? Like, just play with me here in this, Matt. Why do you hear everybody shame and hate on other agents for cutting their commissions?
You're devaluing yourself. You're undervaluating yourself. You don't know how much you're worth. You're putting a dollar amount to what your actually per hour is. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Or, hey, well, every time you do it, you're devaluing the industry. You're bringing down the industry numbers. That's what it is.
What if I'm being a good neighbor? Let's go here for a second. Okay. So in my neighborhood, it would take me 3 seconds to get to any house in here in my car, literally less than 30 seconds, any house in my car, or I walk by. Because I walk in here every day, I literally walk my happy ass past every home, down every street, every single day in this neighborhood.
Well, we just had a conversation yesterday. There's 12 homes for sale in my neighborhood. There's
Well,
12
hold on.
in my neighborhood.
We'll do your math in a minute. Hold on. So if my perfect life, this is a hypothetical, but it could work, and I'm going to test it out and piss everybody off in here, and I don't really care because independently owned. So what if my perfect life was 10 hours a week in exchange for $200,000? Out of the 44 deals that happened in here this past year, how many of them would have chosen me simply because I did it for a 1% commission? I'm asking. Like, let's
38, 38, 40,
let's do the math. 44 homes, a $525,000 transaction at 2.5% commission is $13,000 out of their pocket times 2 because they're usually still here paying for both sides. But let's just keep it out of the sales side. $13K for 2.5%. If I did it for 1%, that's $5,200 per transaction. What's the math? 5,200. Let's say half of them would have went with me times 20. That's $100,000, and I didn't have to leave my subdivision. So how is it a bad thing? That's what I'm asking is like, what if cutting commission just means I'm smarter than you? Because now I don't have to leave my neighborhood. I'm getting 50% of my ideal life without leaving my neighborhood. And I already know these people. What are you thinking? I've never shared this with you, but this is what's in my head right now is how do I be smarter than everybody else and have my freedom number and live my perfect life and not leave my neighborhood?
But here's the thing, right? Here's what hits me. Everybody in real estate, you have the opportunity to run your business your way. And I think that's what we forget, right? And that's the biggest thing is we are told in real estate, this is the way you run a business. This is the way it has to be run. If not, here's the doom and gloom. If not, this is what the website says. This is what the tickety talk, the person on the snappity snap, the Facebook, this is all the things. This is the box. This is the book. Follow this plan.
Yep.
But what if reality was, hey, I'm looking to make, even if let's just say you did 1.5%, now you're at $200,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm going to do 1.5%. I'm going to make $200,000 in 10 hours a week and not burn a tank of gas. Like literally.
Whoa, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I can walk my neighborhood
Yep.
and do right the percentage right. So what are my thoughts are? If that's your business model and that creates the freedom, it creates the life for you. When the day is done, you can look up and say, this is exactly what I wanted. I am living my level 10 life. I am happy. I'm not out there. I'm burned out. I'm doing what I love. I have the freedom to do things. If that's your model, then why would you let anybody talk you out of it?
I don't know, but that's the conversations I've been having are I regardless of other people's opinions of my decisions. My ultimate goal is to not leave this bubble. Now, here's the other sidebar. Majority of people living in here are still military, but guess what? They're retired. They're special ops. They're officers. They're my ideal client because that's who moves out here. That's who can afford to live out here. And I think it's fascinating how many real estate agents believe things can't be done that would allow them freedom that they're looking for just because they're told you shouldn't do it that way. Well, why not? Like, what? I don't know. I don't. Why not?
Now, we're not, just everybody out here, we're not telling you to lower your commission. We're not saying to do those things, but we're just saying,
Well,
how are you?
I'm
Well, you
saying
are.
that. I'm saying if that's what gives you your ideal
If,
life, go
yeah,
for
I'm
it,
not
boo.
right. And let me clear that. I'm not saying we're telling you to go do it, but if that's what gives you
Yeah.
your ideal life and creates the freedom, then it's your business. Run your business your way.
Because I could make $5,000 walking next door to put a sign in the yard, or I could make $8,000 taking literally 10 trips, 45 minutes away down and back over and over, like all day long, turn and burn in this neighborhood, baby, all day. There's another neighborhood right down the street that's got 400 homes in it. Same avatar, same people, same school district. Okay, I'll do it for them too. Screw it. I'll just dominate all the neighborhoods and never have to leave a 2-mile radius, get my little latte on the way and my kid, pick up my kid after, it's like people are so stuck in, we're going off topic here, but the whole thing that got us here was where does your ideal avatar live? Are you brave enough to actually do what's right for you first? I guess is the point. So, what's right for me is not to drive all across the world. What's right for me in this stage of life where my husband's about to deploy and I have a really active small kid is to not have to go totally far out of the way. How are you gonna make it work? And are you brave enough to do it? I don't know. I haven't done it yet, so maybe I'm not brave enough, but I just put it out into the world that it might happen. So,
Well, now you,
if you're an
now you
if
got
you're
to
an
go.
agent
Well, now you got to because we're both going to do it, right? Like
if you're an agent that
in,
lives in
in
East
six,
Haven,
yeah,
any
in
part
six
of the
months, on 6 months, the podcast may be like, yeah, so we fucked up. We fucked up. We decided to only do one zip code, one area. But in other
whatever.
words, we may be like, hey, man, like we're each
Yeah,
making
y'all
two,
are
three hundred
crazy.
thousand dollars a year, man, on 10 hours a week doing
Yeah,
nothing. Well, not doing nothing, but literally
bec
servicing our neighborhood, our
yeah,
clients, the people we know, right? The psychographic area of where we're at.
yeah. I don't know, I think this is a weird ending. What are your thoughts on this conversation? It's kind of gone all over the place, but where it started and where it ended are a little different, but all a
Yeah,
part of
it's
the
all
same
over,
thing.
but that's the way it usually is. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
We started the conversation by saying, hey, what used to work may not be working anymore. Like the ideal client that you have, because when we had this conversation, me and you had a conversation the other day about, man, all these people are out there teaching to do all these first time home buyer seminars, do all these first time home buyer programs, do all those things. Absolutely phenomenal. They need to be done. We need the education out there. We need to empower young, um, young
Anybody.
servicemen and women to be able to buy homes. Absolutely. Yet we also have had many conversations, people saying people aren't showing up. Well, they're not showing up. It's not that they don't lack the education. There's the reality of I may not be able to afford a home. So how do we have a different conversation? We still need to have the first time
Well,
home
it's
buyer seminars. We need to have that, but we need to tailor it to what's actually going on in the market today, not just buy them. Cause that's what's happening right now is it's just a rinse and repeat of the same conversation when it comes to first time home buyer seminars. Everybody, saying the same thing, I love to say parroting the masses. Yet the ones that have actually slowed down, that have people coming to their seminars, that have people coming to their conferences, are the ones that say, okay, this is what is applicable today based on the market and where we're at. Is not the same rinse and repeat, plug and play conversation. You have to make it different nowadays. 2021 is not the same as 2026. So how do we tailor the conversation, massage it, mold it to be applicable to today, to today's market, to today's consumer, right? That's where we kind of started.
yeah.
Then we went into a whole nother model of creating freedom in your perfect life.
I think it's different though. I think it can be the same, but the thing I just wrote down I want to make sure we land is is your messaging matching the market that's buying? Because I love everybody in real estate and everyone's so well intended, but you don't make money if somebody doesn't buy a house. And I think we forget that. We go on this crusade of like, I'm educating people and I'm providing value and I'm doing all these bumper sticker things. But if no one is buying from you, you are a nonprofit organization. And nobody got into this to spend money, not to make money. So the whole point of this conversation to almost all the way to the end was, is your messaging matching the market that's watching you and the market that's watching you and buying? And if the answer is no, which it wasn't for me, the people who were watching me weren't buying what I was posting, and the people who could afford what I was posting weren't watching me. So like, you've got to do a little bit of recon on your
Well,
stuff here to figure that out.
well, and I think you have something that we teach in the authority method, right? And I'll tie it back to this is we teach doctrine, terrain, and message, right? So you got to slow down, right? Slow down to speed up, right? Slow, smooth, smooth is fast. And stop and take a look at the three things. The doctrine is your core expertise. Where is your core expertise, right? Let me take a look at my doctrine and my core expertise. Then I'm going to take a look at my terrain. Terrain, what we mean is like Dina's talking about her area, the area that she's in, also the distribution channels of the analytics from the Instagram, those things. I want to look at the terrain that I'm holding, the terrain that I planted my flag in. The third thing I want to look at, doctrine first, terrain second, is my message. And you just hit it right there. What is my message? What message am I deploying to the people that are out there that I want to, I get to, I choose to do business with? And so slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And so let me look at my doctrine, let me look at my terrain, let me look at my message, and then take the risk that I want to take.
Yeah, and I think too that everybody who is buying anything in the world is, are they willing to pay what they perceive the value of that thing is? Because if you've ever, heard the example of the person who started out with a pen and then it's a pen, but it's a gold pen and people think gold pens are more valuable, but the ink inside is the same. It's because everybody listening to the whole concept of cutting commissions gonna have an opinion on that, and that's cool. But what I think we forget sometimes is, what is the perceived value from the consumer about what we provide? And if I'm going into my neighbor's house and I'm providing, according to my neighbor, right? Pictures, drone, marketing, open house, they don't see anything as different. So when there's no difference in perceived value, the only thing they can make a decision on is the price. So if agent one comes into my neighbor's house and says, I'm going to do these three things for 3%, and then I come next door and I say, you know what? I love you. And I actually like care about your family and your well being because I know you and I don't have to drive. I don't have to go do all these other things. I live right next door. I'll do it for X price. But the stack of values the same, who are they picking?
Well, in the absence of value, money matters.
Yeah, like, who are they picking? They're picking me. Number 1, they know me, they're familiar with me, they see me every day, and I just gave them, back something that they perceive as valuable, which is money. So if you're gonna say we're devaluing the industry, you have to be able to say what your value within the industry even was to begin with. And if you don't know that, you're just talking shit because everybody else says those things. So to your point, take the risk that you're willing to take. Many of you have brokerages that have to approve these risks, so go ask your brokers if you're allowed to. And I would encourage you, if you have to ask for permission, you should probably change brokerages because you're sole proprietor. So, anyway, whatever. Different conversation. But anyway, what do you hope somebody got out of this other than the ramblings of a crazy lady? Because I'm
Yeah,
about to make
here's the
people
thing. I hope
angry.
that everybody watching this, outside, knows a couple different things. One, that we're transparent, that we have honest conversations, right? Number two, that you look at your business and you figure out what your level of freedom is. Like the
And your level of risk for that
well,
freedom.
yeah, because here's the thing, and I'm going to say this, right? And this is, a catchphrase. The purpose of business is to fund the perfect life, right? And your perfect life is going to be funded by your business, right? That's the purpose of business. So create the level of freedom, create the business operating procedures that fund your perfect life, no matter what that is, because everybody is different, right?
Yeah.
The third thing is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Take a look at your doctrine, your expertise, your terrain, where you're actually looking to do business at, what channels you're distributing on, and then your message that you're deploying. Take a look at that because what was messaged, what was going on in 2021 is not the same today. And so you got to adapt, right? First time home buyer seminars are absolutely phenomenal. They need to happen. We need to educate, but we need to adapt to the times and get out of the conversation that your BAH is going to cover the house because in 80% of America, the BAH does not cover the home anymore, right? And so we got to change the messaging to make it, the right thing. I'll go back to this and I'll leave it with like this. I hated, and I still to this day, and please, I know that I'm going to get canceled for this. I hated the fucking message of marry the house, date the rate. I thought that was the absolute worst thing that we could say, and people were saying it.
Killing
Marry
people
the
with
house,
it.
date the rate. Marry the house, date the rate. Marry the house, date the rate. Well, here's the thing: the people that married the house and dated the rate, shit, they're no longer dating. They're engaged. They got kids. They're married. They're
You got a retirement plan together?
yeah, like literally like there was no what's the word like when you get married prenuptial, what's the thing
Yeah,
that
there's no prenup.
yeah, there's no prenup, right? So you married the house you dated a rate without a fucking prenup because rates did not drop enough for most people to be able to refinance, right?
No time soon.
When the conversation should have been, can you live in the payment? Can you live in the payment if this is the lifetime, if this is the lifetime non-commit, non-pre-up payment, can you live in it? Great. If you can,
And
then
can you
we
live
can
with
have
the baggage?
yeah, exactly. Right. And so what if you stick with what everybody else did in 2020, it's not the same, man. BH doesn't cover the same. So slow down to speed up, take your time, have the right message for the terrain based off your expertise. That's where we need to be.
Yeah, so with that, we're gonna let you guys out of here. Thanks for hanging with us on another episode of Crazy Town. And in 6 months, I'm either gonna be the smartest person in this MLS or
Oh,
I'm
wait, wait, in six
broke.
months, either in 6 months, we're either gonna be the smartest people in two different MLSs, right? Based on
Or
us
the craziest people.
or the dumbest.
Yeah,
But
we're either gonna be
either way, it's gonna be a great fucking story, and we're gonna make some money.
yeah, it's gonna be an experiment. And I think that's the thing. If you're not willing to experiment on yourself, don't tell other people to do it. So y'all don't do anything we said today. Just hang on for the next 6 months. We'll tell you how it went. But with that, we will see you guys on the next one.